There we go. All right, let's try that again. That was a freebie. So, hello. Welcome to Office Hours. I'm Stefanie, the Accounts Director here at Stitchcraft Marketing. And today we're talking about marketing for socially distanced holiday shopping. So we'll be putting this on our YouTube channel later this week if you want to watch again or share it with someone, which would be awesome. We love it when people share our content. Okay. I'm going to move my screen down a little bit so that my talking head doesn't distract me. Okay, there might be a...
It looks like we've had one other person join. Jeanette, welcome.
Oh, excellent, welcome. Okay, so today we're going to be looking at 5 trends for this year's holiday shopping season and discuss ways that you can plan for and optimize your efforts for each one. At the top of the list is e-commerce. Probably not a surprise. E-com has grown exponentially since COVID hit, and really the sky's the limit at this point. Unpredictability is unfortunately something that will be a theme as well. It's just comes with the territory of the pandemic, and we've all been dealing with that in one way or another clear up until this point, and that's going to continue. We're expecting a longer shopping season. Folks are going to start earlier to avoid crowds, so keep that in mind as you make your own plans. And smaller budgets. Consumers are trying to do a lot more with less this year as our daily lives and livelihoods are affected by COVID. And last but definitely not least, safety is first, although ironically it's last in this list. That is going to be a top concern, not just for your customers, but for your employees too, and hopefully for you as well. Okay. So first, let's talk about e-commerce. As you can imagine, the shift to e-com accelerated at the fastest rate ever this year. By May, it was up 70% year over year, and it reached $82.5 billion just here in the US. So yeah, more consumers are shopping online for the first time, and also for products that they would normally buy in your store. So based on that shift, you really need to be prepared to drive well over 50% of holiday traffic to your website. So let's talk about your website. If you don't have an e-commerce component to your shop, now is the time to get started. Shopify, Etsy, and Facebook shops make it really easy to get your products online in a relatively short amount of time. So some other things to keep in mind as potential customers are searching for you is mobile friendly. Most people are going to be searching on a mobile device at one point or another, and a slow mobile site is going to limit your business. So you're going to want to check the speed of all the pages on your site. Google has a free tool that I've linked here, and you want to check all the pages you possibly can. And just so you know, a fast site would load in under 1 second. An average site would begin to load in 1 to 2.5 seconds, and anything over 2.5 seconds is considered slow. A couple of things you can do, and this is something that you'll want to talk more to your web dev person, of course, but just so you have a quick idea of something that might be an issue is images. They could take a really long time to load on your site. So you want to prioritize above the fold, which is anything on your website before you have to scroll down. Prioritize those images first. And then there's a term called lazy load, and that's just a technique for loading web content when it's needed rather than all at once. And then another little trick you can do to take that load time down is to compress some of your images to improve the load times. Another thing you want to think about is the user experience. Take stock, make sure your website is set up the best it can be, especially if you've been scrambling to get things online. There might be little things that you missed or just things that aren't quite right. So you want to fix them before the high holiday season hits. A few things to keep in mind and take a look at. Easy navigation. Can folks find what they need? Is it searchable? How are the menus organized? That sort of thing. Also make sure that your best-selling products can be found in a matter of clicks, so they don't have to go on a scavenger hunt. Is the checkout quick and easy? If there's too many steps, a lot of people are going to abandon it. Honestly, you should probably offer a guest option so that folks who don't want to take the time to create an account don't have to do that. Chances are they'll come back and do it at a later date. So you're not missing out there. You're really just maximizing your potential for completing the sale. And finally, think about accessibility. As more and more people are looking for your shop or looking for products like what you offer, there's going to be a wide range of customers who are looking at your website. So you want to make sure that they can use it. A lot of people who have visual impairments use a reader. So if your images don't have alt text or something like that, then your website isn't as user-friendly to them. So that's actually a really big topic that we won't get into here, but I've left a link to a blog that kind of covers some of these issues in greater detail. Okay, move right along. So another thing that is really popular for e-com is click and collect. Even prior to the pandemic, it was a huge trend, even dating back to 2018. So this year alone, it's increased by 195% in May. And that's only in May. So it's one of the many models gaining traction as the pandemic continues. And it's likely to continue even in the post-pandemic world, if we can all imagine that for a second. So for bricks and mortar stores, giving your shoppers the option to pick up their order in the store or curbside during the holiday season just gives another opportunity for you to make the sale. So these are the best practices to keep in mind. First, make sure you have the space. I know that seems obvious, but it's not just a matter of having room for all of the inventory you need. And you may need to get more inventory if you are expanding your customer reach by giving them more options to shop with you. But you also need to have a place where these orders can be assembled and stored until the customer picks them up. So a couple things that you might want to think about is some sort of adjustable dividers or shelves or bins, something that can accommodate products of different sizes and shapes, and maybe a little economical if you don't have a lot of space. So maybe something that stacks, for example, or shelves. You also want to have a designated pickup area with signage. You know, it could be really confusing if someone just shows up and they don't know where to go. It can be very frustrating. So make sure that customers understand where to go. Ideally, that would be in the front of the store. Remember, they don't really want to spend a lot of time indoors. So keep that in mind and be respectful of that. And make sure your staff is trained. So again, you need to make sure that they're ready to deal with this and they know how to manage it to avoid long waits, frustration, and maybe even do a little upselling if possible. If you're able to have some sort of checkout device and maybe a few easy to add on products in that area, you might actually get a few more sales out of the deal. Explain the process. Everyone has a different way of doing click and collect. So you really need to explain to your customers the exact process of how yours works. And just don't be afraid to over explain it. Too much information is better than too little here, because they really need to know where to go, what they need to bring. For example, if they need ID, how they can pay if they haven't paid online, how long you hold the items for, and how to get in touch if there's a problem, you know, things like that. So just try and walk through the steps of all the things that can happen during the process and all the questions you may get, and then that will make things easier for everyone. So here are a few more things to keep in mind as you look to maximize your e-com efforts this season. Don't forget about gift cards. Offering digital and physical options are a great way to reach more shoppers who are looking for a one-size-fits-all gift. And since many of your shoppers will be doing their shopping online for the first time ever, they're going to need some guidance. One thing that you can do is let them know about the shipping deadlines ahead of time for all the services you offer, like the postal service, UPS, FedEx, etc. And also keep in mind that a lot of these services are expecting a really big spike as the season goes on. So you want to encourage early shopping as much as possible. Make sure that all of your shipping and pickup options are listed prominently on your website. Some things you would want to mention are in-store shopping, shopping by appointment, virtual shopping, online shopping for curbside pickup, in-store or even home delivery if you're able to offer that, and of course, shipping options. So this is really important for SEO. Think about what your potential customers are going to be searching for. They're going to be looking for things like pick up near me or delivery of XYZ. So if those words are on your website, that's going to increase the chances that your site comes up when they're looking for whatever they need to buy. You also want to make sure that your store hours are up to date on your website. If you're extending hours for the holiday season to give more people a chance to shop without crowding, that's really important information, right? So other things you can do, think about all those frequently asked questions that are going to come up, shipping options, return policies, etc. If you collect them in one handy place on an FAQ, which is a frequently asked questions page, that can hopefully, ideally, minimize the questions that you get over the phone and email. And finally, make sure that your local listings match what's on your website to avoid customer confusion. So for example, if you did update your hours on your site because you extended them for the holidays, double check that Google, Yelp, etc. have the same hours, because if they see some sort of dissonance between the two, they might not take advantage of your extended hours. They might just go with what's on Google, for example. Also keep in mind that on those listings, you can specify things like local pickup to make sure that your shop comes up in a search. So that's just another way to optimize your own listing to drive more traffic to your website or your physical location. Okay, unpredictability. It's our favorite topic right now, I'm sure. I mean, the pandemic has thrown us a lot of curveballs, and unfortunately, we all need to be agile and able to pivot as needed to meet these demands. And it doesn't mean that you shouldn't plan ahead. It just means that you need to be ready to adjust your plans as needed to react to changing circumstances around everything from inventory levels to customer demands to external forces beyond our control. So plan what you can for your own personal sanity. Hopefully you already make a calendar to guide your marketing efforts, but if not, this is a great time to start. So filling out the calendar lets you map out the weeks or even the months ahead, allowing you to distribute your work in a way that makes sense, and also avoid having everything pile up at once. So you could start by filling in holidays, events, and sales that you have planned so that you could shape the rest of your schedule around that. So you want to mark down the important shopping days for your business, like Black Friday, Small Business Saturday, and Cyber Monday, the big three. And once you've made a note of those dates, think about how you're going to communicate to your audience throughout those busy holiday months, because the messages you send out on different marketing channels are going to probably change through the season. You know, November might be dedicated to getting people ready for the holidays. December is your time to remind people about last minute gift ideas and deadlines for holiday orders. And having that calendar lets you plan as many of those messages ahead of time as you can to make sure you're reaching the right people with the right message at the right time. But scheduling is not just for social media, although we do love scheduling social media ahead of time. You can also schedule your emails So you could create newsletters ahead of time and set them up to go out whenever it's appropriate, especially if you want to remind customers about a promotion or your special holiday hours. You know, these are things that you can totally do ahead of time. And then once they're set up, you schedule them in advance or save them as a draft, and then just add in any last minute information or links before you send them out. So one of the biggest challenges during the pandemic has been product availability for a lot of people. And with some of the factories closed or operating at reduced capacity, it's been difficult to source inventory. So yeah, some supply chain issues have taken a little bit longer to trickle down, but as you're trying to stock your shelves for the holiday season, keep that in mind and don't wait till the last minute. We're also seeing a lot of shipping delays. It's just sort of become the norm. So again, planning ahead ensures that you have what your customers want when they need it. Of course, it's difficult to know how much you need to order. That is kind of the tricky part. But here are a couple ideas to help you work around that, especially if you are a little budget averse at the moment. So for some items, you could offer a pre-order option. So for example, maybe offering pickup after Thanksgiving or early December delivery. And that can really, you know, answer the question of how many of X do I need to order? Because you know, based on the pre-order. You might also want to think about reaching out to local makers who are willing to sell their yarn, tools, or other related products in your shop on consignment. I know that's not really typical of our industry, but I think as things change and evolve, and especially as people need to have more income streams, they might be more open to such an arrangement, and it never hurts to ask. And that can also help you stock your shelves while not adversely affecting your bottom line, at least right away. And we already said it, but gift cards, they are another option to consider. A lot of e-com platforms are making it easy and affordable to offer them. And here is a link to a Shopify blog about selling gift cards if you want to read more about that. Okay, it's a marathon, not a sprint. The National Retail Federation debuted an ad campaign recently that's Shop Safe, Shop Early. And it discusses the health benefits of shopping when the stores are less crowded. So I think there's a lot of messaging out there to try and get all of those procrastinators into the stores sooner. And of course, there are going to be people who wait till the last minute. I mean, that's just how it goes. But more shoppers are expected to start their holiday shopping earlier to avoid crowds. So early planning is going to be critical to make sure that your shelves are stocked and you're promoting the right products. So a quick overview of the timeline. Most people saw Amazon's annual Prime Day, which was last week, as the kickoff for this year's holiday season. And of course, other retailers like Target and Walmart followed suit with their own deal days. And now we're just pacing ourselves to the finish line. I don't know about you, but I'm getting a million emails already in my inbox, and it's overwhelming. So of course, the traditional dates, like we mentioned, the big three, 1, 2, 3. But I also like to celebrate some of the quirkier days between now and the end of the year. It can add a little bit of fun to what can be sometimes a very stressful season. And it might also help you stand out from the crowd. So here are a few of my personal favorites. We've got World Kindness Day, which is November 13th. Fibonacci Day, you know, great promo for shawl knitting or something. Giving Tuesday, which is kind of more of a charity bent. So make sure that whatever promotions you're doing for that are kind of in line with the whole vibe of Giving Tuesday. Poinsettia Day. Ugly Christmas Sweater Day. And my personal favorite, Festivus, for the rest of us. So you can find more days to celebrate at daysoftheyear.com, but these are just some of my faves. Okay, so more ways to stand out from the crowd. Personalization is huge. Cyber Monday promotions are going to be stretched out over several weeks this year. There's just going to be deals everywhere, and customers are going to be bombarded with ads via email, Facebook, and every other online and maybe even offline channel. So the more you can personalize your messages and segment to get it to the right person, the better off you are. Here's a quick stat. Qubit.com surveyed over 800 consumers in the US and the UK, and they found that 2 out of 3 consumers expect a personalized experience when shopping with a brand after the first visit. So yeah, there's no time to waste. What does personalization look like, you're probably wondering? Well, it's not just sticking someone's name in the greeting of a newsletter. I mean, that is technically personalizing, but we're talking about a deeper experience. It's to bring the in-store experience to the digital sphere as much as possible. So here's a couple things you can try. Chat features. Live chat or even a chatbot to answer customer questions just like you would at a physical location. It sounds like I made that sound go off right now, so you could imagine what a chatbot feature would sound like, but that wasn't planned. Another thing you can do is make your return policy front and center. Again, this is something that's really important to people who are leery of shopping online maybe, so they want to know, hey, if I guessed the wrong size for this thing that I bought, can I return it easily? Product suggestions. This one is huge. The idea is to use browsing and purchase history to suggest items that match a customer's preferences when they visit your homepage, when they're browsing your website, and even in email messaging. So it's again, a very broad topic, and you can do as much or as little as you can handle at the moment. But the more you can do that, the bigger an opportunity you have to get more sales. And email automations are another thing. We touched on that a little bit to talk about product suggestions, but you can do more than that. You can follow up on out of stock items. You can cross-sell, suggesting similar products to those that they've previously purchased or even just viewed. You can also do an abandoned cart automation, which can bring in a lot of revenue. So that's, if you have to start somewhere, I would say abandoned cart. Another thing you can do is look at some location-based suggestions that you can make on your site. So some I've seen are a trending near you feature or suggestions for seasonality or weather in your neck of the woods. Those are all possible options. I think people really like to see what other people nearby are buying. You know, is there a specific color of yarn or fabric that people like, you know, maybe something that matches school or sports team colors, for example. So you could do that there. Scarcity is another thing. Noting if you have a product that's selling fast, has low stock, or is in several other shopping carts can really trigger a sense of urgency. So a good example is here in the Etsy shopping cart. And with that Star Wars Mandalorian fabric, which by the way is really cute. I've made a lot of face masks with it. It's a crowd pleaser. But you could see 9 people have this in their cart. If you want more, you better get it now. So those are just some things you can consider. Okay, the amazing shrinking budget. Accenture's 14th annual holiday shopping survey of 1,500 US shoppers shows that 2 in every 5 plan to spend less this year. So that means you've got to be exceptionally thoughtful in how you win over a cautious and cost-conscious customer base. And luckily, we're going to discuss some tactics here. So comparison shoppers are going to be out in full force. With less spending power, you want to make sure you're getting more bang for your buck, right? So it's going to be a lot more difficult to win over consumers just with a discount. I mean, deals, we already said, will be everywhere. They already are everywhere. So you're going to need some sort of differentiator. So think about how you can add value instead of just discounting. Here are some ways. Whoops, got ahead of myself. You could do shipping, like if you ship lightning fast, orders go out, you know, within 24 hours of them being placed, let folks know. If you have a longer return window, if you have a lower threshold for free shipping, or if you offer complimentary gift wrapping, that can really bridge the gap between your competitor getting the sale for a similarly priced product. So as we already covered on our previous slides, another thing you can do is personalization. So there's a little bit of overlap here. But that's going to be one of your best bets to get a comparison shopper onto your site and ready to switch over from just browsing to making a sale. So overall, your messaging needs to be really sympathetic and convey your understanding of the current situation. I mean, people are really hurting right now, so we need to be sensitive to that. And they still want to give their loved ones gifts that they're going to love and cherish, right? So here's a couple ideas to help folks during this difficult time. Gift guides. I love a good gift guide, and we do have a blog on the Stitchcraft blog that walks you through the process of creating some. One way, if you aren't sure where to get started, is you can look for some common themes among last year's holiday shoppers and target them with some products that fit into that theme. So for example, you might develop a stocking stuffer guide with lower priced products that are sorted by best sellers for people who purchased products under $25 last year. That's just one example. I'm sure we could think of more. And I think we have some on that blog post. So we'll make sure to send a link over. And personalization again. Are you really tired of me talking about that? But making sure that your product suggestions make sense for the person who's visiting your website or interacting with you. You know, if you know someone has not ever spent more than $25 with you, suggesting they buy a $200 set of knitting needles or a really pricey project kit is just going to seem tone deaf. So let your data work for you. All right, safety first. Now, you probably are quite well versed in this. Hopefully, you're already doing some of these things, but it is going to be a huge factor this season. And a lot of customers want to know that not only is the shopping experience safe for themselves, but they want the frontline retail workers to also be safe. A couple fun stats that I came across when I was doing research for this presentation is 3 in 4 consumers support retailers closing on Thanksgiving, with many citing the need to give workers a well-deserved day off to spend with their families. 3 in 5 plan to minimize in-store shopping to reduce health risks to frontline workers. So yeah, I think making sure that folks know you're supporting your employees and keeping everyone as safe as you possibly can is going to be really important. So without further ado, here are some tips to make in-person shopping safer for everyone. Are you down with PPE? I cracked myself up. So hand sanitizer is probably something that you have around already. I think it's really nice when you walk into a business, when you see it right by the door, you know, that encourages you to use it, but also gives you a little signal that you care about the safety of your customers and the cleanliness of your store. So just make sure it's alcohol-based and meets the current recommendations from the CDC. And if you're able to get a touchless one, that is ideal. I mean, again, if we're all touching the same pump, it's kind of defeating the purpose, but it might not be in your budget. So keep that in mind. Another thing you can do is provide free or low-cost face masks to customers who need them. So, you know, in the holiday rush, some folks may have forgotten to grab them before they run their errands. And that's just a nice way that you can give them a little added support. I know I've walked into a couple places and they just have them right by the table or right by the door, along with the hand sanitizer, and it's super convenient. And also, Schedule some cleanings. It can be really hard during the course of the day to remember to do stuff, especially when you're not in the habit. But the more you can get in the habit and have an actual schedule that you adhere to, the easier it will become. So you want to sanitize commonly used surfaces like door handles, touch screens, countertops, that sort of thing. And of course, before and after your business hours, you want to do a more detailed cleaning. So just make sure you build a little extra cleaning time into your day. Social distancing, yes. Well, we're all kind of doing this already, so we're all a little bit tired of hearing the phrase social distancing, I'm sure. But here are some things you can do in your shop. A simple rearranging of the store can give a lot more space to the customers to move through it. So you might just want to think about a few fixtures that you can remove to free up space, or even making aisles one way, as this lovely sign suggests. You can also place some guide marks where needed. You don't need to have anything really fancy. You could just use masking tape if you had to. And clear signage. Again, if you have one-way aisles, but there is no sign, then they won't magically know, probably. So just let folks know how they need to move through your store. And that can eliminate a lot of confusion and congestion. And last but not least, contact tracing. If your customers are in the store for a prolonged period of time, you might want to think about collecting just basic contact information like a phone number or an email address, should the hopefully unlikely need to contact trace arise. And experts are still recommending spending time outdoors versus indoors as much as possible. So here are a couple things that you can put in your arsenal as you make your holiday plans. First, some warmers. Think about investing in a couple, especially if you think you might have some lines of customers out your door. That way they're comfortable and they don't get frostbite while they wait. Tent shopping is another possibility, provided you have the space, like a parking lot, for example. And if you live in a chilly climate, that's not necessarily a no-go. Again, if you can get a source of warmth, that would make it all the more doable. And plus, if you're catering to knitters, we always know how to dress warmly. So keep that in mind. There's also some great technology out there to control your in-store congestion. And I just was reading about this app that a lot of retailers are using called SafeQ. And that allows customers to sit in their cars, or if they live nearby, and wait their turn, and then they're notified when they can come into your store safely. So make use of technology. That's it. I am going to stop recording before we do questions, but thank you for listening to this presentation. And let's see here, stop the share and stop the recording.